Hello, could you hear me? Oh, that was stupid. That was shitty. Okay, so excuse the me not hooking the mic up. Excuse me for not hooking the mic up. So, I was saying that tonight's live, since I just got home from work, so I'm a little bit tired, and it's late, so I figured, but I still want to do a live. So tonight's live will probably be a bit short. Usually the lives go for about 2 hours or so. Hopefully, I have just a few videos I wanted to check out and a topic I wanted to talk about. So, that's pretty much it. Um, okay, so if you guys haven't checked my second channel, please do. So on my second channel and my TikTok recently, I've been talking about the tariffs. Um, right now, America is tariffing China. I don't think it's gonna last. America is addicted to cheap goods. America is addicted to using uh, Chinese cheap labor. They don't want cheap labor. They don't want to use cheap labor here in the U.S. But hey, it's okay to use China's cheap labor because it's not in your face that these people are making like $1 an hour or so. So I don't think it will last. But in a lot of my recent videos, especially on my TikTok, I've said this. I would not cry if America cuts ties with China. I won't cry if America can't get cheap goods. Can't take advantage of China's cheap labor. I won't cry. I won't cry if the iPhone can't, produce or build a cheap ass iPhone that then they will sell us the same overpriced iPhone every year. I'm not gonna cry about that. I'm not gonna cry about all the small businesses that essentially don't employ nobody, but buys in bulk from China thanks to their cheap goods and cheap labor, and then mark that price up to sell to American people. I Here's the thing. I personally I don't think that's China because China is a socialist country. There's no unions. This is a thing where because apocalypse that could be true, but that isn't true in China. And you know what? Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, but we all know that Americans or other countries they get things from China, not because it's quality made, but the production it's low. It's cheap labor, cheap labor, and that's the thing. I do agree. America's cheap. America's cheap. They want to outsource. I do agree. So and like I said, I don't believe that we will stop because yes, we are addicted to it. But I said this: I won't cry if that becomes a reality, where we stop consuming all the shit we're consuming. We don't need more water bottles, more makeup, all this shit. We don't need more of it. We don't. And I'm not saying I'm anyone special. I suffer from, the whole shopping addiction too. I get that. So what I'm saying is that I'm not thinking about myself. Okay, think of this. I invest in the stock market. Nike. I have Nike stock. So let's say this: if the tariffs disappear, I will make money. I will make money. Nike will go up. Amazon goes up. All these American companies will go up. But this is a thing where I don't really care. It's not about me making money. It's not about me enjoying buying crap. No, it's about, I think, shopping, Americans being addicted to consuming is harmful. It's harmful to us. Only in the West, where we have a problem with hoarding, we have a problem with overbuying shit. Please check out my video, okay? I did one on my second channel, okay? Devil's Avocado. Please check it out. I'm gonna put more videos about this topic on that channel, so please check that out. I also have more of this on my TikTok. Yes, hit the like button, my brothers. So tonight will be a pretty short stream. That's pretty much the topic about how F China. I don't care if America cuts ties with China. I would personally actually love it. I think that's better for the West, where we cut down on buying. We cut down on buying. We buy too much shit. Nike, Apple, all these clothes, H&M, Primark, all these things. Cut down. I'm not saying make it disappear or like 100% no more, but I would not cry if all of a sudden we have to stop buying crap. I won't cry. But you will hear, if you want to check out my full thoughts, please check out that video on my second channel. So, I have a few videos that I want to check out. If you guys like the material, please watch it with me. But tonight, like I said, it's gonna be a pretty short stream. I just got off of work, so I'm a little bit tired, but I still want to stream. I still want to, yes, so much electronics. Why the hell do we need so much? Why the hell? It's like, and I'm not saying I'm anyone better. So that's what I'm saying. Yes, if we go back to how it was, I would kind of benefit anyway, monetarily with my stocks, and for me to buy a whole lot of crap. Yes, I'll probably feed my addiction as well. But this is the thing where I'm not thinking about myself. One, I'm thinking about my people, American people. I'm thinking about the world. We consume so much crap. Guess where it goes? Landfills. All that shit will eventually go into garbage, trash. So really, yes, America will be fine. They should never outsource, because outsourcing has increased production. And with increased production, we have to increase consuming. So, yeah, but I'm going to watch a couple videos that I want to check out. It's not about, tonight will be a bit different. It's not about women and shit like that. So if you guys don't like it, I understand. But this is a kind of a topic I've been a bit passionate about lately. So if you guys want to watch it with me, cool. If you don't, all good, my brothers. Oh my God, that's exactly true. Exactly true. Like, I had an iPhone 10. I had an iPhone 10 for years. I only had to switch because it got stolen from me. Why do we as people need to buy a new iPhone every goddamn year? It's the same iPhone. It's the same phone. But you know what? We are addicted to buying. We are addicted to buying.
OK，大家看一下啊。
Let me show you. These products for export. Due to the tariffs from yesterday, all the orders shipped overseas are stuck. So many goods are now piled up in the warehouse. If we go under because of the trade war, remember the name of our company. On April 9th, a factory manager...
I won't cry if these businesses, small businesses, manufacturing businesses, go under. I'm sorry, I'm not. We don't need more cheap goods. We don't need more sneakers. We don't need more phones. We don't need more clothes. We don't need more shit.
From Tide
Zone. It's like, back in the day, our money saved, invested, or just saved, so we can buy a house. so we can buy a car that we keep for years. Now we want to buy luxury goods. Luxury goods. That wasn't a thing. That wasn't a thing 50, 60, 70 years ago. Now it is. Now, I'm not saying that it's fine, luxury goods, it's whatever you enjoy, but it's like, it's still overconsumption.
Zhejiang shared a video showing products unable to be shipped due to the tariff.
And we can make it better. I think we can make it better over here. Plus, that money, our money, cycles through our people, our own economy. Guess what? Our money is cycling to other people's economy. We essentially, if you have studied a little bit, Americans' money has actually made China more prosperous, has increased their economy. And fine, that's great and all. I mean, I'm not saying that, I want them dead or anything. It's not that, but it's like, why? You gotta think, why is our middle class, our American middle class, shrinking and disappearing? Because our money is either going to the rich and disappearing from the poor, or making other countries more prosperous.
With goods piling up in the warehouse. On the same day, an employee from a factory in Jiangsu also posted images of an empty workshop.
拆床，没人。
They say I'm spreading rumors. Let me show you. The factory is on break, waiting for further notice. I need to find temporary workers.
Oh my God, yes. My clothes. Put it once in a washer, it shrinks. It shrinks. I gotta throw it away. There are holes in my shirt. Okay? Holes in my shirt that is just like, oh wow, that's all of a sudden there.
This is the reality.
Following the Chinese government's retaliatory tariff hike on April 9th, President Donald Trump announced that tariffs on Chinese goods will be raised to 125%, effective immediately. He also stated that countries which had not imposed retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. would have their tariffs suspended for 90 days, also taking effect immediately. Trump further criticized the Chinese government for showing a lack of respect towards the global market. The White House later clarified that the 90-day suspension meant U.S. tariffs on countries other than China would be reduced to a baseline rate of 10%. This move is part of Trump's latest strategy aimed specifically at countering the Chinese government. Despite widespread complaints for both domestic and international trade sectors, the Chinese government has insisted on its retaliatory stance. At the same time, it has aggressively censored reports about the real conditions in the foreign trade industry and has continued to fuel anti-American sentiment at home. Although many related videos have been swiftly removed, some Chinese social media users have continued to post images and footage showing the hardships faced by factories amid the trade war. On April 9th, one content creator posted a video showing a mountain of goods stuck in storage. He said that as the China-US trade war intensified and a 125% tariff was imposed on exports to the US, 2,000 gas stoves remained unshipped. He asked, "What are we supposed to do?"
现在情况就这样咯。
This is the situation now. Factories are shut down, production has stopped, and hundreds of people have been dismissed on the spot.
Another TikToker wrote that the tariff situation
You gotta think, why are factories being shut down? Are Americans the only consumer? This is the thing. Americans are the primary consumers of the world. We consume more than we produce. We consume more shit from other countries than we actually shipped out. We're not getting paid. We are paying. We are not getting paid. We are paying. It's like you wonder why America is in debt. Guess what? One of the biggest debts women have, is consumer debt, credit card debt. So America is like a fucking fat woman, is a big old woman, right? Because we buy a whole lot of shit. We don't know how to budget. What does that sound like to me? Sounds like a woman.
felt like adding insult to injury, with many industries facing...
And I'm just playing, but still, that's what I'm saying. We have such a huge consumer problem.
Facing severe challenges. He said, "Suddenly, machines have been turned off. The sky has collapsed. Yesterday, everything was..."
You know what? That's what you would think that. You would think that China would have such a huge consumerism problem, or they would consume their own shit. But honestly, they don't. They don't. Because here's the thing. Chinese people, they make enough to survive. They make enough with a purpose to survive. They spend their money not really on luxury goods. The rich, yeah, in China, they do. But the average people in China, no, they don't care about Nike. They don't care about all these brands. They don't care about buying like 100 different sneakers.
Fine, and today the boss said we're stopping. We've only been back at work for 2 months after the holidays, and now we're all going home. I heard that most factories will close after May Day. Another post mentioned that after 3 more days of work, a factory has suddenly been shut down. All employees involved in foreign trade is forced to take leave. Another video showed a factory shut down and workers being sent home with an uncertain future ahead. On April 9th, a worker in the manufacturing industry shared what they observed on the factory floor.
关税战开始了之后，我跟大家汇报一下我。
After the trade war started, let me tell you about the manufacturing situation on our side. A factory making imported audio equipment for OEM stopped its orders. A factory producing hardware stamping announced layoffs. Another factory that exports plastic products started canceling orders with plastic trading companies, and the materials they ordered are now useless. The worker noted that some industries has seen a sudden improvement, with certain imported materials benefiting unexpectedly. For example, the price of disassembled BCDG materials had increased. The worker explained that since some imported materials still had no domestic substitutes, the prices naturally rose. Those holding inventory are now holding back supply. Foreign trade orders are now beginning to pass through product manufacturers, and the effects will soon reach material suppliers and chemical factories, setting off a chain reaction across the industry.
关税最大的输家可能就是我们东莞的。
The biggest losers from the tariffs are probably the factories in Dongguan. After all, Dongguan...
This is the thing where I agree with Apocalypse. Why? Why are they suffering? My what is it? My theory. My theory is that, and I've been to Asia. They're not heavy consumers. They're not heavy consumers. The Asian, and I only been to Vietnam. Okay, so I haven't been to China, but I'm assuming they're pretty similar. They are not heavy consumers. Honestly, Asian people are very minimalistic. Asian people, I mean, straight out from Asia, straight from Asia, they're very minimalistic. They're very minimalistic. This is the thing where, what I've, from family and stuff like this, what they want is a house and a car. The best car you can get, the nicest car you can get, the nicest house you can get. Everything else is not that big of a deal. That's what I seen, and I'm assuming why, honestly, these products that Chinese are producing, they don't use themselves.
is known as the world's factory. There are 14,000 local enterprises, and 60% of them rely on foreign trade and exports. We don't export ourselves, but just think about it. If these companies can't ship their goods out, their upstream and downstream orders are bound to collapse. There's a Taiwanese-funded factory near us that originally gave us just 1 day off for the Qingming Festival, but now they're extending it to 5. The real issue is this. To survive, these companies have to shift to domestic sales. But that means they're now competing with small factories like ours that already focus on domestic markets. So now everyone's caught up in this intense struggle. It really feels like we're being dragged under. While the worker did not oppose China's countermeasures, they criticized those who constantly advocate online for whatever it takes or fighting back, saying such people may not realize they are the ones bearing the cost. Social media users expressed concern with comments like, "I don't know how many people will lose their jobs. It's really worrying." No problem. The unemployment rate won't be reported, so it'll stay at 0. In Dongguan, it's getting harder for ride-hailing and food.
And you know the thing that's funny? Because China is a socialist country, they report whatever they want to report. You cannot trust any numbers that come out of China. You can't. China will report whatever the number they want to report, whatever they think looks good.
Delivery drivers. In 6 months, many business owners may join them. China expert Yue Shan.
That's what I believe too. I believe Asian people, Chinese people particularly, they're not showing off wealth. They're not showing off wealth.
Said the trade war's impact on China could lead to a broader societal crisis. Unemployment had already been rising in recent years. This year, a record 12.2 million university graduates are entering the job market, alongside many farmers who have lost their land and now need jobs. The trade war could push even employed factory workers into unemployment. In addition, many factory owners, previously part of the middle...
Let me say this. I sympathize for, if it happens, the unemployment or the destruction of factories. But guess what? America has suffered from it. Our industry, our factories, our industrial manufacturing wiped out. Guess where it went? To China. That is why now we don't have the infrastructure. We had it. Everything you could produce in China, we could have produced, and we had produced in America. We could have produced and we had produced in America. But guess what? Americans can't compete with cheap labor. They can't. And willing cheap labor. These people, because yes, the minimum wage is different, they will quietly take the $1, $2, $5 wage that they get.
class may fall into poverty due to bankruptcy, potentially triggering an unprecedented wave of joblessness in China. On April 10th, a Zhejiang factory owner who runs a lingerie business voiced frustration late at night, saying the U.S. tariff hikes are affecting not just export factories, but domestic businesses as well.
睡不着两句啊，这次这个增加这个关税。
I couldn't sleep, so I thought I'd chat a bit. This round of tariff increases is seriously affecting everyone in manufacturing. Some people say, what does that have to do with domestic sales? But actually, it's hitting us hard too. For instance, it's really difficult to source fabric right now. Large spinning mills would rather shut down. They have massive daily operating costs. In the past, 50 to 60% of their orders came from foreign trade. Now that those have disappeared, the costs are just too high to keep running. The same goes for dyeing factories. Many of the big ones have stopped operations too. So really, don't you think this is having a major impact on us? On April 9th, a factory owner shared that several of his peers, after losing their foreign trade business, plan to shift to domestic sales. However, he questioned how they could survive in an already struggling market, saying, if they join the competition now, when things are already this difficult, we'll all just end up dragging each other down. What kind of future can this environment possibly have? He emphasized that this issue affects everyone, not just those directly involved in trade. He advised people to manage their finances carefully and spend cautiously, warning that in just a couple of weeks, everyone could begin to feel the impact. That same day,
everything we're hearing right now, everything, right, this video is talking about, happened to the U.S., let's say 70, 80 years ago. All this shit, everything you're hearing, that's what happened to America. That is why our industry, our manufacturing industry died. That is why there are cities in the U.S. that pretty much died. Detroit, I don't know, these other places. Okay, there are ghost cities because our manufacturing died and went to China.
A financial content creator in Nanjing posted a video claiming that foreign trade factories in Jiangsu could collapse as a result of the U.S. tariff hike. Today, I met with a client in the textile export business. The raw materials had just arrived in the morning, and production was about to start, but by noon, they were hit with news of a 104% tariff. As a result, all the orders were canceled, and the factory immediately announced a shutdown. Sure, we also imposed an 84% tariff on the US, and that did boost morale, right? But after the slogans fade, has anyone really thought about what comes next? The most immediate impact is that many export-focused factories will have to cut production, lay off workers, and a lot of people could lose their jobs. To survive, these export-oriented factories will need to shift to domestic sales. But doesn't that mean the factories already doing domestic business will be dragged into even fiercer competition? In the end, we all get caught up in it, and you can't expect the domestic market to absorb all that excess capacity. On April 9th, a TikToker working in finance in Xiamen shared her thoughts on the US raising tariffs.
首先我是做财务的，前2天我就问了。
First, I work in finance. A couple of days ago, I asked our export clients how the tariffs were affecting them. They told me that 90% of their business has been suspended, and that was when the tariff increase was just 54%. Now it's likely that everything is on hold. If the trade war drags on, exports will be impossible, and all the related industries will be affected. Factories, international logistics, platform promotions, all of them are without orders, and we won't be able to collect fees. Just the income loss for people in these industries is huge.
You may think I'm Asian, okay? That I would support the Chinese, this and the thing. I've said this before where I love America. America has given me the life that I have now. And I'm American born. So, being American born, loving America, I want better for America. For America, for Americans. That's what I care about. That is what I care about. If you are American, I want better for you. I will not cry. And I sympathize. But I won't cry if America cuts ties with China. If we stop outsourcing our shit, our manufacturing to China, boo-hoo, I'm not crying. If all of a sudden now that we have to, cut back on buying shit, I'm not gonna cry.
Huge, let alone the inflation the tariffs will cause, leading to a chain reaction. So really, don't change jobs too easily this year. Holding on to your job is the best thing you can do.
Another female TikToker shared her experience with the US raising tariffs.
Trump 这个加关税的动作，可能很多人都感受不到，但是我真要哭瞎。
Trump's tariff increase might not have hit many people yet, but I really have to laugh it off. Last month, our US clients imported our products and the tariff was already 45%. At that time, the clients were desperately asking me for a price cut, but I couldn't lower the margins any further. As you know, the US...
Serious? You think you can get China to lower their margins? They're barely paying their workers. Literally, I'm seeing products. Let's say this. I saw luxury purses and shit, or Nike sneakers, or like $2. $2 a sneaker. It's what? You want them to sell $1 sneaker? Guess how much their worker will be paid. So you think China is that's how China can sell, right? That's how China can sell. That's how China can undercut American manufacturing. They're not making much of a profit. How do China subconvent? I mean, how do China live? Because Chinese, they're fine with making enough. The Chinese are fine with making enough. They don't need to make 2 times, 3 times the profit. They honestly, the Chinese, they're fine with living at their means. They're not looking to live beyond their means. They're not looking to be billionaires, millionaires. No, they're looking to stay in business. That's what they're looking for. Stay in business, have enough money, not overabundance. And they do it by volume, not necessarily, making a lot of money in this thing. No, they make a little bit here, a little bit, and all these things. It's the volume.
Market isn't sensitive to prices, it's sensitive to quality. With 45% tariffs, we were barely holding on to our quality-sensitive products. But after these recent changes, I'm really embarrassed to ask the clients to place orders. They said they are still discussing, and I just replied with one word, okay. Because honestly, I don't even know what else to say.
She pointed out that many foreign trade influencers offering so-called countermeasures were being unrealistic. Faced with such steep tariffs, there are no real strategies, only the option to endure. When prices double, will customers still accept them? If not, the deal is likely off. She stated bluntly that unless a business is essentially giving products away for free, like a charity, no one would be willing to import regular goods under such high tariffs. On April 9th, an article published on a Chinese WeChat public account described the current situation of China's foreign trade industry. The author explained that on April 8th, they sent a survey to around 20 friends involved in foreign trade, asking how they plan to respond to the new U.S. tariff policies. The responses showed that about half were either taking a wait-and-see approach or had already stopped production. A quarter planned to raise prices, while another quarter were preparing to give up on the U.S. market entirely. Only 10% believed the impact would be short-term and minimal. Most business owners were pessimistic. Half said the situation was serious but survivable, while the other half said it was severely affecting their operations, with no solution in sight. On April 9th, a content creator named Michael shared that he had just returned to China after a trip to the U.S., landing in Xiamen on the morning of March 29th. It had only been 8 or 9 days since his return, yet he was surprised by how quickly the U.S.-China tariff situation had worsened in that short time.
我其实刚刚从美国回来，我从美国回来是应该是3月29号，就中国时间3月29号一早落地的厦门。
This year, we actually anticipated there might be tariff issues, so I took my team to the U.S. for more than 10 days and also visited Canada for a few days in anticipation of the tariffs. But I didn't expect them to be this high. Plus, now the tax rates between the two countries are so high. Will there be decoupling? Honestly, I'm really quite scared myself. Michael said that ever since the new tariff...
I hope. I honestly do hope. I mean, here's my I said this already. My personal opinion, it won't happen. The U.S. needs China's cheap labor. We are addicted to buying, to consuming. China needs America's money. As much as China can send shit to other countries, America makes up most of their imports, makes most of their GDP. Our money goes into China more than other countries. More than other countries.
Tariffs were announced, his company took an immediate hit. One major client officially moved a $10 million order to Malaysia, which directly cost his company at least $2 to $3 million in losses. Let's take a quick look back at how this tariff war unfolded. It started on April 2nd when Trump announced the U.S. would impose 4%. Not to be outdone, Beijing announced on the evening of April 9 that starting the next day at noon, it would impose an 84% tariff on all U.S. products. China's Ministry of Commerce...
F China. I mean, like, it's not like America's importing much to China. So really, whatever. Because here's the thing. China restricts U.S. imports. They don't buy a whole lot from the U.S. Because, to be honest, we don't produce a whole lot. You won't find an American car in China. You won't find it. iPhones, it's a small market. iPhones are not that big. I think Huawei is bigger in China than Apple is. Tesla is not that big in China. China promotes their own brands more than they do American-made brands. So really, and you think about this, Nike, all these other clothing brands, China makes it. So they just needed to take off the swoop, the Nike swoop, and you still have essentially a Nike shoe, just without the swoop.
Also rolled out sanctions against 18 U.S. companies. 6 were added to the unreliable entity list, meaning they're banning from importing, exporting, or investing in China. The other 12 were put on an export control list, restricting military-related tech transfers. Shortly after that, Trump fired back again, raising tariffs to 125%, effective immediately. According to Reuters, China responded by censoring all online discussions of tariffs on platforms like Weibo and WeChat, while at the same time amplifying anti-U.S. messaging. On April 9th, China's State Council Information Office quickly released a white paper titled China's Position on Several Issues Concerning Sino-U.S. Economic and Trade Relations. It claimed the U.S. broke previous agreements and forced China to respond, while also trying to make China look open to negotiations. The paper accused the U.S. of using issues like fentanyl and port taxes as excuses to pressure China, painting Beijing as a victim. That same day, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs declared that China had the strength and confidence to handle the risks and challenges ahead. It also claimed that global investors were still optimistic about China's economy, saying that abandoning China is like abandoning the next decade of growth. But on the ground, things look very different. On April 9th, Zhou Ning, an e-commerce seller from Jiangxi, told Radio Free Asia that China's business climate is now the toughest it's been since the reform and opening up era. He said the U.S. canceling duty-free treatment for small parcels have been devastating for millions of small online sellers. Tariffs on e-commerce packages mean we can't lower costs. That makes it really hard to sell overseas. For Chinese e-commerce, profit only comes from high volume. It's not just me. Everyone running an online store is in the same boat. Zhou Ning predicted that China would face a new wave of business closures, and foreign and Taiwanese invested companies would likely also suffer. Regarding China's increased retaliatory actions, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said on April 9 in an interview with Fox Business that Beijing's actions were unfortunate and a loser for them. He emphasized that U.S. exports to China were 5 times less than China's exports to the U.S., meaning that the tariffs would hit China harder. Bessent also warned that if Beijing further devalued the yuan...
Think about this, okay? Anyone, and that's why I'm part of the very few who are pro tariffs. Because here's the thing. I do not care if we cut ties from China. I do not care if Americans consume less. I don't. I'm actually for it. I'm for us cutting ties with China. I'm for us consuming less. Let's make quality goods and buy very sparingly. How about buy a phone that lasts 5 to 10 years? I mean, come on. This is a thing where if you hear any detractors of tariffs, they are essentially just saying, they are saying, it's going to hurt America. Why? Why is it going to hurt America? Because we can't buy cheap goods. It's going to hurt America because we can't buy cheap goods. If that's what it's going to hurt America, I ain't going to cry. I ain't going to cry about that. So really, seriously, that's not a compelling reason for me to be against tariffs. And like I said, I suffer from consumerism. I do. But again, in the long run, in the bigger picture, I don't care if I suffer. I don't care. If I can't buy more crap. I don't care. I'm not gonna care. I'm not gonna cry about it. I think it's better for the West, for Americans, to buy less, to consume less.
It could trigger a global tariff chain reaction. He also revealed that the U.S. government was considering delisting Chinese companies from U.S. stock exchanges and creating new export capital controls. The global tariff push initiated by the U.S. has quickly escalated into a full-blown trade war between the U.S. and China, with the whole world watching closely. According to the White House, around 70 countries have already reached out proactively to start trade negotiations. On April 8th, European Commissioner President Ursula von der Leyen spoke with Chinese Premier Li Qiang, urging Beijing to resolve the tariff control through dialogue. They also discussed setting up a mechanism to track how Chinese goods, redirected by U.S. tariffs, might start flooding European markets instead. Li Tianbao, an honorary professor at Niagara University's School of Business, said that when the U.S. first imposed tariffs on Canada and Mexico, many people weren't sure what the real target was, but just a few days later, it became obvious. China was a real focus, and everything else was just a lead-up. Observers also noted that on April 8th and 9th, Beijing held a rare high-level Central Peripheral Work Conference with Xi Jinping personally presiding. Political commentator Li Yanyi said that although the meeting's content wasn't made public, it clearly came in response to the mounting pressure from the escalating trade war. The Chinese leadership had expected global support when it pushed back against the U.S., but instead found itself isolated. Even Southeast Asian countries didn't rally behind it, leaving China increasingly surrounded and alone. China analyst Wang He pointed out that China's industrial overcapacity has become a major concern for the global market. Many countries are suffering under the weight of cheap Chinese exports and are unlikely to unite with Beijing. Plus, no economy can afford to break ties with a massive U.S. market. An article published that same day in The Economist described China's approach as a high-stakes gamble. According to the article, Beijing is betting on time, expecting that as U.S. tariffs drive up consumer prices and strain jobs, Trump will eventually be forced back to the negotiating table. But The Economist warned that China's own supply chains could buckle before the U.S. does. This is a gamble with real costs. Ye Yaoyuan.
We'll see. I don't know. But we'll see. Let's check out. I have a couple of videos that I want to watch. It's about all this stuff with China, so I want to watch it. If you guys don't want to, totally understandable. Like I said, tonight's stream will be a bit different than usual. It's not about women. It's not about that shit. It's about, what's our economy, what's going on, and this topic I kind of have a passion with. We are polluting the world with a whole lot of crap. Whole lot of crap. This is the thing. This is kind of a weird story. I mean, not much of a story, but it's just made me think more. So I wear some flip flops. Okay. I had these flip flops for couple years now, but they're a little bit dirty, but they're wearable. They're not they're not like torn up and shit like that. So I'm wearing it. Yesterday, my aunt gave me a new pair of flip flops. I'm like, my current ones are good. And then today, my mom bought me another pair of flip flops. I'm like, yes, I get it. These things are maybe $10, $20, but that's the thing. We are over consuming. Why are we not using products for years? Like clothes, years, shoes, phones, whatever, like 5, 10 years. Like back in the day, shit you can pass generationally. Even clothes you can pass on generationally. Nowadays, after a few wears, you throw it away. Phones, God forbid you pass that shit down.
Is over, and now I'm unemployed. Where can I find a job? There are no orders, and I don't even have money to live on. Right now, with the tariff war going on, many people in China are losing their jobs. Even business owners aren't spared. Recently, everyone's talking about the increase in U.S. tariffs. For us in the textile industry, this is really a huge blow. A lot of our clients have either stopped placing orders or canceled them altogether. Things were already bad before, and now it's even more uncertain. With the intense competition going on everywhere, where can small and medium-sized businesses like us go? We have so much production capacity, but we can't sell overseas. If we try to sell in the domestic market, we're crushed by competition. It's like having too many eggs. They go bad before anyone eats them. On April 10th, the U.S. raised tariffs on Chinese goods to 145%. The new rate took effect immediately. One day earlier, on April 9th, President Trump announced an additional 125% reciprocal tariff on Chinese imports. This came on top of the existing 20% tariffs, which were originally imposed because the Chinese government failed to stop illegal immigration and fentanyl from entering the United States. So, which industries in China are being affected? According to the Peterson Institute for International Economics, the biggest impact will be on China's major exports to the U.S. This includes electronics, machinery, textiles, and garments. An article by a top Wall Street analyst says that Chinese companies exporting medical supplies are also taking a hit. One syringe manufacturer said that 40% of its existing U.S. orders are now under pressure to renegotiate prices. Traditional industries, especially manufacturing, are under serious strain. For example, the iPhone production line at Foxconn's Zhengzhou factory is only
I don't believe that anything China can produce, America can't produce. I don't believe it. They can produce it at a cheaper cost. They can produce it at not caring of the environment. Okay, I can agree to that. China don't care if they destroy their environment to produce rare earth materials. They don't care. So China don't care if they pay their workers $1 an hour. They don't care. So yes, I can agree with that. But honestly, there's nothing that China can make the US can't make or haven't made themselves. They just do it at a cheaper cost and at a lack of care for the environment.
Operating at 70%. Meanwhile, the factory in Vietnam is running at 92%. Reuters reported that the manager of a Christmas tree factory in Jinhua, Zhejiang said, "So far this year, we haven't received any orders from American customers."
Christmas tree factory! A Christmas tree factory! I swear to God, this is why I said I don't care if we cut ties with China. I would be happy if America, as a nation, we buy less. We buy less. We don't need Christmas trees. It's nice, it's cute, it's fun, but honestly, we don't need Christmas trees.
It's clearly because of the tariffs. Normally, by mid-April, all the orders would be confirmed, but now, maybe they won't buy anything at all this year. Ms. Guo, who also runs a Christmas tree factory in Jinghua, said that a major American client had just asked her to pause a 3 million yuan order. She had already spent 400,000 yuan on materials and now fears the order might be cancelled, which could deal another serious blow to her business. Ms. Guo said, "People like me and my peers depend on U.S. orders to survive. These steep tariffs from the U.S. are going to affect a lot of people, and no one can escape it. Losing the U.S. market will definitely cost a lot of people their jobs." According to a Caixin report on April 10th, nearly half the cargo ships docked at the Yangshan and Waigaoqiao ports in Shanghai on April 7th and 8th were headed to the U.S. Many of them had rushed over from the U.S. hoping to load up and head back before the new tariffs kicked in. But after Trump's announcement on April 9th, raising the tariffs to 125%, there were almost no ships heading to the U.S. at Shanghai's port on the next day. The containers that didn't make it out in time are now stuck at the port. They're just sitting in the container yards, waiting for the owners to either pick them up or figure out what to do with them. A worker from Costco Shipping at Yangshan at the container yard outside Yangshan Island is already piling up with these stranded shipments. Many owners are now going through the process of withdrawing their goods from customs. Air freight is also facing serious challenges. A shipping agent admitted that no one is even asking about regular air cargo anymore. And this is just what we're seeing right now. On April 9th, Song Guocheng, director of the Center for International Relations at National Chengchi University in Taiwan, said that Trump's tariffs are turning into a head-to-head trade battle between the U.S. and China. It's not just a tariff issue anymore. It's a direct economic showdown. He said the U.S. is fully prepared to cut ties with the Chinese Communist Party. The tariff rate has been steadily rising and could even reach 200%. According to him,
I hope so. Controversially, I hope so. Fuck it. Cut ties. Yes, increase to 1,000%.
There's no limit to how high Trump could raise tariffs on China. He said if things reach that...
But like I said, I don't think it's going to happen. I think we will make a deal. One of us will buckle because, like I said, we are hungry to buy cheap goods, and China wants to sell us cheap goods.
At that point, the U.S. might just block all Chinese products altogether. He even gave it a name, the tariff, to eliminate the CCP. The trade war has turned into a hand-to-hand combat, or what some people call a Trump tsunami. If Trump really takes action, he estimates that in 2025, China's GDP growth could fall by 1.5 to 2 percentage points. In that case, there's no chance for an economic recovery. China's economy would keep shrinking, and there doesn't seem to be any room left for trade negotiations. That's why the Chinese government is saying it's like mutual destruction. If one goes down, both will fall together. What Song described as a full and hard decoupling between China and the U.S. But what would that mean for China?
Here's the thing. Would it be a mutual destruction? Like I said, our GDP, our economy is not dependent on China. Our consumption is dependent on China. I agree. Not our economy. Because we are not making money from China. And here's the thing. If we have to, if certain companies disappear, so what? If America is getting hurt in the short term, I believe like I said, I don't believe it's going to happen, but I believe it is better for us in the long term. I want us to either produce more ourselves or consume less. Be more dependent on ourselves or consume a whole lot fucking less. Either or, I'm fine with.
Without access to the U.S. market, China has no economy to rely on. Song said the global economy is being split in two. The U.S. wants to build a supply chain without China. That leaves China with no choice but to try and build a supply chain without the U.S. But China has always depended on markets of Western democratic countries to drive its economic growth, even while confronting them politically. Now, China faces a big problem. All the goods it used to ship to the U.S., along with all the excess capacity sitting inside the country, now have to find a new market. But no country in the world has the buying power the U.S. does. So Trump has...
That's what I said. There is no country on this earth that has more of a shopping addiction than the U.S. To be honest, I can't predict the future. I'm not an economist. I'm not like, a fortune teller. But again, I think it is better for us as Americans to detangle ourselves from China. I think it's better for us to not be so addicted to buying. We don't need a new iPhone every year.
Move to block what's called country of origin laundering through third world countries. That means countries like Vietnam and Indonesia, which used to help China relabel exports, may now turn away from China and start negotiating.
Oh, and you think that, okay, big companies, Nike, Apple, all these other companies would disappear? I don't think so. I believe that these companies will have to cut down margin. Oh, the millionaires and billionaires are not getting millions in their paycheck. Whoop-de-doo. They can't buy a fucking yacht. Okay, I'm not crying about that either. I'm not crying that Apple CEO can't buy a yacht. I'm not crying that Nike CEO can't buy a mansion. I'm not. Yes, the people who work for them will be affected, be laid off. But here's the thing. I invest in stocks. So even if this shit didn't happen, if a company wants it, they will still lay off their employees. A little while ago, okay? Maybe a year or so ago, Facebook laid off hundreds, if not thousands of people to improve their balance sheet. Microsoft, Google have laid off hundreds of people to improve their balance sheets. It don't fucking matter. Shit like this is just an excuse.
Directly with the U.S. Goldman Sachs said the impact of U.S. tariffs isn't always straightforward. In some cases, China is the main or only supplier of certain products, so it's hard for the U.S. to find replacements. China has set a target of about 5% GDP growth this year, but the latest U.S. tariff could knock that down by around 2.4 percentage points. Goldman Sachs now expects China's growth to hit 4.5% and says there's still a risk it could fall lower. The BBC Chinese service quoted Oxford Economics chief economist Lou Zhihui, who warned that in the worst-case scenario, China could lose up to 3 percentage points of GDP if all trade between the U.S. and China disappears. Capital Economics also analyzed the situation. If these tariffs continue, China's exports to the U.S. could shrink by more than half over the next few years. That alone could cut China's GDP growth by 1 to 1.5 percentage points. An economist from Societe Generale said that Trump's latest tariffs could cause most of China's exports to the U.S. to vanish. The scale of these tariffs is so massive that neither exporters nor consumers can handle them, and currency devaluation won't be enough to offset the impact. Some experts believe that if the U.S. and China go through with a full decoupling, China could face 8 major crises. First, China could lose $500 billion in exports to the United States. According to customs data from Beijing, Chinese goods sold to the U.S. last year totaled over $500 billion, which made up 16.4% of China's total exports. Second, many Chinese companies might use this opportunity to completely move their operations overseas. But Trump's new global tariffs are aimed specifically at stopping Chinese companies.
Yo, why? What's up, my bro? Did you already eat and walk, Odin? How was work, my brother?
From using third countries to disguise the origin of their products. Future trade talks with other countries will likely include even more restrictions on Chinese goods.
I'm gonna have a short stream tonight. Won't go on that long, so just did. Okay.
For Chinese businesses, this could be devastating and leave no way out. Third, China has had serious overcapacity issues. Now, with the U.S. setting up trade barriers, all that excess production will have to be redirected to other countries. But many countries are already complaining about China dumping cheap goods into their markets, and they're likely to respond with their own countermeasures. This will...
Other countries don't have as big of a shopping addiction like America. And this is the thing. China is trying to like poison other countries' brains so they can be shopping addicted. Okay, cool, bro.
Will only make China's economic situation worse. The Wall Street Journal previously reported that economists believe Trump's massive tariffs on China could trigger new problems for the global economy. Around $400 billion worth of Chinese goods would need to find new markets, but it will be hard for other countries to absorb the volume of products that once went to the U.S. This could intensify what economists call the China shock in those countries. The report noted that in 2023, 1/5 of the imported steel products in the U.S. came from China. More than 1/4 of the imported electronics came from China. 1/3 of all shoes and 3/4 of all toys the U.S.
steel products, we could produce it ourselves. We just don't want to because it's cheaper to get it from China. Do we need more electronics? Do we need more fucking shoes? I mean, yes, the toys, fine, but we don't need that either. Like, yes, I suffer from over consumerism, but I don't mind the pain. I want Americans to change their mindset. I had to look at this, right? A few years ago, I was suffering paycheck to paycheck because I was buying crap constantly. I was constantly buying shit. Constantly. Every week, every month. Something from Amazon, something from eBay, something. I'm constantly buying shit. And then I was wondering, where's all my money going? I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I have no savings. There was negative in my bank account. To only like had to realize that I was fucking I was drowning in buying shit. Needless shit. Yes, it's nice, geeky shit, but it comes to a point where I was filling the hole that's in my soul, my body, my heart, with the addiction of buying. You get that adrenaline. We probably all know it. That dopamine effect of getting a package, right? Getting a package, buying shit. But that joy ends really quickly. So we have to continue to do it. So I came to realize that I stopped. I cut down my buying drastically. But I was still affected because I bought a whole lot of shit. Whole lot of clothes, whole lot of toys, whole lot of geeky shit. So really, you think that I was continuing? No, I stopped buying quite a long time ago. But this is the problem with a lot of Americans. We love to buy. And then we wonder why. Why are we living paycheck to paycheck? Because we are over consuming. Back in the day, luxury goods wasn't that important. Luxury goods wasn't that important. People saved. The main thing that they want to buy is a home and a car. That is it. All these other things, they don't mind buying once in a blue moon. They will wear a shirt, pants, shoes for years. What they saved money for was a home and a car. Now we are over consuming. We need multiple cars. We need the biggest home. We need so much clothes, so much toys, so much shoes. We are drowning in buying shit. Yes, I mean, that's the thing where I cut back drastically on buying. And I just realized that, why am I doing this shit? It's like the emptiness, bling, bling, like, yes, the jewelry, it's like, come on.
Imported were from China, and 91% of umbrellas the US bought came from China. China's surging
umbrellas! Can we not make umbrellas ourselves?
Exports in recent years have already raised tensions between China and other major economies. If Chinese exporters start redirecting goods meant for the US to other countries, those tensions could grow even worse. Since Trump began the trade war in 2018, countries around the world have launched nearly 500 anti-dumping investigations and rulings against Chinese products. Economists are warning that this is creating a domino effect where trade wars escalate quickly. As countries launch retaliatory measures and set up more trade barriers, even more nations may get dragged in. Michael Pettis, a finance professor at Peking University who studies global trade, said the real explosion hasn't even started yet. The fourth major crisis is that Chinese goods originally meant for export to the US may now flood the domestic market. This will only worsen the situation inside China. The country is already facing deflation, and if these goods can't be sold at home, businesses will go bankrupt. Eventually, no one will want to spend money, people will tighten their belts, and it will spiral into a vicious economic cycle. Fifth, global supply chains could completely move out of China. If that happens, China would no longer be the world's manufacturing powerhouse.
I hope it does. I hope it does. Again, America can manufacture their own shit. They just don't want to. Yes, it's cheaper to outsource your shit. Americans can manufacture everything themselves. There is nothing that China makes that America hadn't already make or could have still make. We just don't want to. But that's the problem. Why? If we don't want to, then we shouldn't buy it. Umbrellas? Fuck it. Like, seriously. You know what? As crazy as it is, I don't own an umbrella. I don't own a fucking umbrella. I'm not crying when it rains. I don't own an umbrella.
And they would lose the title of the world's factory. Sixth, the worst case scenario is that American and other foreign companies would completely pull out of China. That would trigger a massive wave of unemployment. Victor Shi, director of the 21st Century China Center at the University of California, San Diego, warned that the impact of tariffs could lead to millions of job losses. He also said that China could face a wave of bankruptcies, and U.S. exports to China might also completely...
It's like, wow. See, this is the thing. Why said he doesn't own an umbrella too? It's like, I get it. I mean, it could be, I mean, it's like, yes, there's usefulness to it, but so what? I don't need more crap in my house. I have plenty of crap. I don't need an umbrella. Yeah, you know what? A raincoat. I have a hoodie, right? Like seriously. And I drive a car. You know what? If it rains a bit on me, fuck it. Who cares?
Stop. The Chinese Communist Party has proposed 6 so-called countermeasures, but in reality, all of them would end up hurting China itself. The CCP-backed WeChat account Neo Tanqin posted on April 8th that China is ready to hit back at the U.S. with at least 6 countermeasures. First, China may sharply raise tariffs on U.S. agricultural goods like soybeans and sorghum. Second, it could ban U.S. poultry imports. Third, it might suspend cooperation with the U.S. on fentanyl. Fourth, it could take action in the services trade sector, like restricting U.S. firms from taking part in government procurement or working in legal consulting. Fifth, it may block American movies from entering the Chinese market. Sixth, it plans to investigate how much U.S. companies earn from intellectual property in China. But Trump already had responses to the first and second moves during his first term. He gave subsidies to American farmers and businesses that were affected. In the end, these measures didn't hurt the U.S. They actually ended up hurting Chinese consumers more. As for suspending fentanyl cooperation, that might just anger the American public and push them to support Trump even more. This could lead to even tougher U.S. policies against the CCP. And the idea of retaliating against American companies in China or investigating them is also seen as a bad move because it would only speed up the departure of foreign companies from China. These countermeasures would likely push up prices inside China and hurt everyday consumers. At the same time, they would make decoupling between the U.S. and China even worse. The 8th risk is that beyond tariffs, the U.S. might launch a financial war against China. The U.S. still has a lot of tools it hasn't used yet. The United States holds a major advantage when it comes to advanced technology, so it could block China from accessing key tech, turning the conflict into a tech war. The U.S. also has the U.S. dollar, a globally accepted currency, which gives strength in a financial war. Plus, the...
I love that. I love that you are putting money into like an old American car. An old American car. I love that. I really do. That's amazing, my brother.
The U.S. has powerful allies. When combined with democracies like those in Europe, Japan, Australia, and South Korea, these economies make up over half of the global economy. Taiwanese media reported that Fubon Securities chairman Chen Yiguang said it's likely the trade war will turn into a tech war first. The report also said that the U.S.-China tariff war won't just affect these two countries. The impact on global trade will be widespread, and it won't end anytime soon. On April 9th, the Director General of the World Trade Organization warned that the U.S.-China tariff war could slash trade between the two countries by 80%. A Nigerian economist and Director General of the World Trade Organization said that since trade between the U.S. and China makes up about 3% of global trade, this conflict could seriously damage the world's economic outlook. A person posting under the name Laogan TV commented that China is basically challenging the entire world and might end up being the last country to switch off the lights. Foreign trade is collapsing. Can real estate prices even stay stable? Are we still worth anything? If every country has to follow the U.S. just to survive and raise tariffs on China, it will be like 1952, when writer Eileen Chang was at least able to escape to Hong Kong, but now we don't even have anywhere to run. Whether it's property or meat, everything is just rotting in the pot. One state media commentary warned that giving up too quickly without resistance means having no leverage at the negotiation table. If there's no pushback, the US can take whatever it wants. But once any reaction is labeled as surrender, then fighting to the end becomes the only option. Another commenter, named a newcomer, said that with tariffs raised so high, there's not much room left to go further. The US might put down the stick and pick up a brick, meaning they might start delisting Chinese companies from US stock markets. Tariffs were just the first move. The US still has many more cards to play. Delisting would be far more damaging than even a 1,000% tariff. Tariffs hurt regular people, but delisting directly hits China's elite. So, does the Chinese Communist Party still have any breathing room? Writer Yang Cheng-o wrote on social media that in this round of high tariff warfare, the only one with no chance of survival is the CCP. If the US pressures other countries to stop China from using third countries to hide the origin of its goods, and if it demands high tariffs on both finished and semi-finished Chinese products, then China would have to fight a separate tariff war with every country. Could be completely wiped out, what he described as losing everything in one bet. At a time when the domestic economy is already suffering from multiple problems, and after 10 years of aggressive wolf warrior diplomacy that has offended countries all over the world, if the US pushes China into a corner, no country is likely to come to its defense. If the US asks others to impose high tariffs on Chinese goods, most will comply. If the whole world starts isolating the CCP, China's exports would vanish and its foreign trade.
I wouldn't mind. I'm a big supporter of us just cutting ties with China. I'm a big supporter of it. So really, I'm not gonna cry about it. I really ain't. So, and that's the thing. I'm a geek, but I'm not a car geek. So I've always thought it would be cool if I was able to build or fix my own car. I'm not that. I can't do it, or I don't have the drive to do it. But I commend you. Why? Big commending that you could do it. I mean, seems like you're a car nerd.
Our factory has never been this bleak before. It's hard to get orders, and even the workshop and...
This is the last video. Thank you for, joining this, stopping by the stream. I know it's a bit different. I wanted to watch these videos because I've been really, the last couple days this week, I've been really passionate on this topic because, like I said, I would not cry if America cut ties with China. I would not cry if America cuts down on our consumerism. I won't cry. And in all honesty, I would support it too. So, all the crap that you hear from why tariffs are bad, not a single reasoning makes sense. Not a single reasoning I agree with. Why are we supporting slave labor, cheap labor to buy, other countries' products? We don't need to consume more. We actually need to consume less. Really? Oh, that's cool. Did you work for Ford?
Server rooms have stopped production. Other factories that mainly export to the US are in an even worse situation. For our factory, to keep the employees, the boss is desperately selling off inventory, hoping that more customers from Yiwu International Trade City can help us.
Well, still cool that you know how to work on a vehicle. I wish, I don't know. I kind of do, but I kind of don't. I never had the passion. It looks really cool. I've seen plenty of people online fix and maintain cars. It looks cool. I don't know. I just don't. I've never been a car person anyway. There's no like. I don't have a favorite car. I don't have a desire for cars, but I definitely love people who love cars. I think that's really cool. Okay, that's cool. Why? You are such a manly man. You are such a manly man. You work on a fishing boat. You are a grease monkey, bro. You are a typical man.
with orders. So the pressure from the inventory will definitely fall on us salespeople. Trump's drastic move will only force Chinese businesses to explore other markets like Europe, South America, and the Middle East.
Production has stopped. Earlier, some followers were asking about whether the U.S. tariff reduction affects us. As you know, we mainly do business with the U.S., and that's 90% of our income. As of yesterday, the U.S. tariff has increased to 104%, and the direct impact on us is that all export business to the U.S. has stopped. Even original equipment manufacturing clients told us to stop production. All the goods at the port need to be returned, and the losses are incalculable.
With
the U.S. increasing tariffs on Chinese goods by 104%, the garment trade might collapse directly.
I know that feeling. And I think that's cool. Being a jack of all trade, commendable.
Factory orders are plummeting. Machines are idle. Workers are unemployed. Accepting orders means losing money. Not accepting them means waiting to go bankrupt. Caught between a rock and a hard place. Foreign trade is shifting to domestic sales, but the already intense competition in domestic garment market will only get worse, and prices will be cut to the extreme. The profit margin on a piece of clothing may be thinner than paper. Textile factories, fabric factories, garment factories, wholesale garment stalls, clothing stores, every part of the industry is being dragged into a price war. What about the consumers? In the short term, clothes will be cheaper, but the fabric might be worse, and the fit might not be right. After a few wears...
Thank you, bro. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to find people that either share some of my opinions or can embrace my opinions. I love that.
They'll lose shape, and you'll feel like you wasted your money and lost trust. In the long term...
This is why I do consider all of you guys who have, stopped by my channel as brothers. I honestly feel you guys as friends.
If there's no profit in the clothing industry, other industries will be the same.
Thank you. Thank you, why?
Factories and companies with no profit will have to shut down. More people will lose their jobs, and fewer people will have income. Money will be harder to earn, and fewer people will be able to spend. Nobody will buy clothes, cars, or other things. What can we do? The workshop is now full of foreign goods, and we still don't know if they'll be shipped out or if the other side will even accept them.
This is the situation right now. The factory has stopped production, and over 100 people are laid off on the spot.
All U.S. orders have been stopped today. We don't understand how these tariff increases and reductions will affect us, but it's clear that many people can't continue their business. The streets are emptier, and many people have lost their jobs. The first to be affected are the workers, with no foreign trade.
Although I sympathize, I don't sympathize that completely. Because I said this already. Guess what? Everything you're hearing, that happened to America. That happened. China destroyed American manufacturing. Laid-offs, firings, the disappearing of American manufacturing. Guess what? China didn't care. So honestly, yes, as the small people, the people at the bottom, it's sad. But thank you, bro. Thank you. Enjoy yours too. Enjoy yours, why? Thank you for stopping by, my brother. It's just how it happens.
Orders, the factory can't run, and the first ones to be laid off are the workers. You might earn 2,000 yuan this month. Then
all good, my brother. I always love it when you stop by.
1,000 yuan the next, and the month after that, you'll pack up and go home because there's no work. It's just that simple and that real. Guys, let's just lie down and watch. These street vendors are all business owners. The trade war is real, and it's already impacting the economy. What effect does the tariff have on ordinary people?
首先我是做财务的，前两天我就问了。
First, I work in finance. A couple of days ago, I asked our export clients how the tariffs were affecting them. They told me that 90% of their business has been suspended.
Especially to the U.S. market. According to 2024 data, Guangdong accounts for 20.8% of the total national import and export volume, showing its leading role in foreign trade.
中美关税互相反制。
The US-China tariff battle is a huge blow to Guangdong. There's no doubt that Guangdong is the most affected, and it's possible that Jiangsu's GDP will surpass Guangdong's in the coming years. Guangdong is a province most reliant on foreign trade, and the US accounts for the largest portion. Guangdong's rapid rise is largely driven by trade with the US and the West. Guangdong's geographical location makes it naturally suited for foreign trade. The Wuling Mountains to the north block the...
Guess what? Detroit used to be one of the biggest car manufacturing city. Guess how that went out? Right? So really, I'm not gonna cry that a city in China will hurt because they can't sell their cheap goods to America anymore.
inland, while the plains to the south open up to the world. It's as if Guangdong is saying, I don't want to trade with the inland, I want to trade with the world. Guangdong is China's foreign trade hub, where countries from all over the world converge. Once the tariff war escalates and foreign trade declines, Guangdong's GDP will inevitably plummet. Many northern provinces rely on transfer payments from Guangdong to pay government salaries and pensions. Without Guangdong's support, many places won't even be able to pay civil servants. The data is available for verification. Guangdong's vast wealth is earned from trade with Europe and the US, with the US being the major contributor. This will have a chain reaction. Northern civil servants need to prepare for this. After Guangdong falls, will you still get your salaries?
Entrepreneur Zhao Rensong posted a video on April 9th.
贸易战是真正的开始了。
The trade war has truly begun. The impact of these tariffs is hitting manufacturing bosses like a punch in the chest. We've witnessed the history of these tariffs. It started with a 34% increase, then 54%, and now it's directly at 125%. What does this mean for us? First, the volatility of raw materials is huge. Second, foreign trade orders have been chopped off, especially for businesses focused on the US market. These bosses have no idea where to go from here. Third, the stock market is crashing. Every sector is falling, and stock investors are really struggling. But the real danger is a tightening cash flow. Small and medium-sized enterprises may not last 3 months. They may face bankruptcy.
Guangdong has been the top province for imports and exports for 39 consecutive years, crushing other provinces by a huge margin. It accounts for 1/5 of the total foreign trade in China. The escalation of the US-China tariff war will directly impact Guangdong's pillar industries, such as electronics, machinery, and textiles. The shrinking exports could trigger a domino effect. Thousands of companies are facing reduced orders and increased costs, making it hard to maintain operations, with many even facing the risk of bankruptcy. This will lead to higher unemployment, which will worsen social tensions. In this situation, public dissatisfaction could quickly build up. China's tough response to American tariffs has drawn global attention and sparked discussions. The Chinese government claims it will stand firm, but the outside world wonders how China can afford to take such a hard stance. Why does China insist on being so tough? In reality, China has limited options to respond to the tariff war. China's exports to the United States are 3 times larger than U.S. exports to China. Using tariffs and export controls in retaliation won't have a significant effect. Currency devaluation can mitigate the...
China needs us for money. We need China to feel our addiction. What's more important? What's more affecting? China needs us for something good, economy and money. We need China for our dopamine addiction of buying shit.
Impact of tariffs, but could lead to capital flight. The government might introduce more subsidies and export rebates, but this could worsen overproduction and lead to further deflation. The government's efforts to boost household consumption have had limited success. Statistics show that the U.S. exports a total of $3.2 trillion worth of goods annually, but only $144 billion are exported to China. U.S. exports to China account for just 4.5% of its total exports, so China's tough stance on tariffs doesn't really affect U.S. exports. Looking at China's export data, according to the General Administration of Customs, China's total exports to the U.S. in 2024 were $520 billion, out of a total of $3.4 trillion in exports. Exports to the U.S. made up 15.3% of China's total exports in 2024. In 2018, during the peak, exports to the U.S. accounted for 17% of the total. In 2024, China attempted to diversify its reliance on the U.S. market through the Belt and Road Initiative and trade with developing countries, which make up 50% of total trade, but it's still hard to shake off dependence on the U.S. market. Moreover, U.S. consumption accounts for 69% of its GDP, which is among the highest globally. This indicates that the U.S. market's high purchasing power is difficult to replace. From an economic perspective, it's hard to explain the Chinese government's response to the tariffs. Behind its tough stance lies a more complex reality. Some commentators believe the U.S.-China trade war isn't just a clash between 2 countries, but a battle between 2 different political systems. CCP General Secretary Xi Jinping faces a dilemma. He cannot appear weak in front of the U.S., but retaliating could escalate the trade war further. If he backs down, it would undermine his legitimacy as a leader. On April 4th, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that one of the purposes of tariffs is that the U.S. is confronting other economic systems. He pointed out that China's economic system is drastically different from that of the U.S., with low costs, often referred to as slave labor, and supported by subsidies and loans for industry, alongside many non-tariff barriers. He argued that China has such a large trade surplus with the U.S. that it needs the
Yep. How many?
U.S. market to survive. In response, Professor Wen Guangzhong, a retired economics professor from Trinity College in Connecticut,
You know, I always wonder why we don't do more with Alaska. I mean, I don't know. I would think that Alaska has a lot of resources. I mean, I guess that we want to keep the environment, but I don't know. I just think that Alaska has a lot to offer. And it's such a unpopulated state.
told the media that Secretary Bessent views the issue from the perspective of whether it will promote the happiness.
That's the thing where I think, and I get it. Again, Alaska is very wilderness, thing, but I don't know why Alaska, with so much resources, it could be a powerhouse. I don't know. I think it's crazy. I really think that Alaska could be a powerhouse.
And income growth of ordinary people. He believes that if China continues with its retaliatory stance, the welfare of the people will inevitably decline. However, he argued that the CCP does not see it that way. Historically, the CCP has always needed an enemy to justify its struggles. Wen Guangzhong stated that China's economy is already in a serious downturn and will certainly continue to decline, but the CCP can use both evidence and lies alternately, shifting the blame for all the costs onto the US and the people. He explained that the lies come in the form of stirring up nationalism and claiming that the economic difficulties are caused by US imperialism. If people still resist, the CCP will resort to violence. It will blame economic stagnation, unemployment, income reductions, factory closures, and more on the US, and demand that the people bear the burden of national hardship. So from this perspective, it's unrealistic to think that the CCP will immediately surrender because of the US tariffs. Wen Guangzhong also pointed out that Xi Jinping...
Yeah, I mean, like mining, oil, wood production, I think Alaska has a lot to offer. We just don't tap into it. We don't tap into it because why bother? Why bother? We could just export everything. We could just import all the shit. I mean, we could just import all the stuff. And it's like, this is, like I said, this is why I don't mind if we cut ties with China, with other countries that honestly aren't benefiting us. Especially not benefiting us in a good way. I think when America was great was when we depended on ourselves.
Xi Jinping's personal leadership position is a key factor. He believes Xi is unlikely to compromise. If Xi were to compromise, he would lose his credibility domestically, and people would start thinking about replacing him. Whether he might privately compromise in the future is another matter, but for now, it's definitely not an option. Wen Guangzhong finally emphasized that this approach has been consistent in CCP leadership since the time of Mao Zedong. He hinted that during Mao's time, external conflicts such as the Korean War were used to consolidate power, and Xi Jinping might be inclined to maintain a confrontational stance to secure his position at home. The outside world has mocked the CCP's resistance to the United States, arguing that the CCP believes the Chinese people can endure everything, even living off tree bark. On April 8th, Taipei City Councilor Miao Boya harshly criticized the CCP's tough stance in the US-China trade war. She mocked that the CCP dares to take on the US not because of its strength, but because it relies on the strategic endurance of the Chinese people, who are so exploited that they could survive on tree bark. She pointed out that CCP leaders like Wang Qishan had shamelessly boasted to the West that Chinese people can endure all suffering, suggesting that such servility is the CCP's secret weapon in opposing the US. Miao Boya blasted this logic, exposing the CCP's cold disregard for the people, using the public as sacrifices to maintain its regime. She argued that Xi Jinping's stance is self-deceptive. Since Trump's first term, the CCP has claimed that it was prepared to decouple from the US over the next 8 years, but the actual results are questionable. She said the CCP isn't afraid of an economic collapse, but believes that without elections, the people will silently swallow their suffering. Although the CCP can ease short-term impacts through subsidies and shifting markets, Miao Boya believes that long-term economic decline can weaken the CCP's regime stability, especially as public dissatisfaction accumulates. In recent days, the CCP has blocked discussions on Weibo and WeChat about public criticism of its hardline stance against the US. The CCP's People's Daily has published several articles in a row criticizing the US for its abuse of unilateral tariffs, claiming that the sky will not fall. On April 8th, the Ministry of Commerce issued a statement on its website saying that China will stand firm in its struggle. On April 9th, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs continued its rhetoric, asserting that China has the capability and confidence to deal with risks and challenges. On April 4th, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning shared a video on X featuring a speech by former Chinese Communist Party leader Mao Zedong from over 70 years ago during the Korean War. The CCP refers to that war as the war to resist America and aid Korea. In the speech, Mao stated, "As long as they want to fight, we will fight, and we will fight until..."
That's the thing where we have so many states that are not doing well, or states that can't. Our country is bigger or just as big as any other country. But why are we not sustaining our own country? I'm always amazed that we're not manufacturing our own goods. Because oh wow, it's cheaper otherwhere. It's the labor is cheaper. But why? Why is it okay that we support cheap labor in other countries, but it's not okay that we support cheap labor in the US? It's like, seriously, why not pay American workers good wages to manufacture our own shit? Why do CEOs, companies need large margins, large profits? Why are CEOs getting benefit packages of millions of dollars? It's like, I'm tired of this selfishness. I get it. Capitalism is great, but honestly, it turns into, not just making money to, live off of, to be greedy, over capitalism. It's hyper capitalism. It's disgusting.
We achieve complete victory. However, there's a clear gap between such rhetoric and reality. Thousands of businesses have shut down, foreign trade has shrunk, supply chains have been disrupted, and workers are unemployed. These issues cannot be solved simply by slogans. Chinese-American economist Li Hengqing analyzed that the CCP's recent rhetoric of accompanying until the end is strikingly similar to the slogan it shouted 3 years ago about persisting in the zero-COVID policy. This decision-making system stifles anyone with new ideas, and the longer it continues, the greater the harm it causes. Li Hengqing further stated that while the Chinese people are known for their endurance, there is one thing they cannot tolerate: not having enough food. With tariffs reaching 125%, China has effectively decoupled with the US, and businesses can no longer operate. When businesses collapse, the direct impact is on employment, meaning that the Chinese people could face hunger. He added, graduates from a few years ago still can't find jobs, and now another 12 million graduates will be entering the job market. What will happen? Will it not lead to social unrest? That's why the CCP is very nervous and has recently strengthened an organization called the Social Work Department. Li Hengqing explained that the new social work department is based on the grid management model used during the pandemic, aiming to control sensitive groups and eliminate problems before they grow. However, as issues continue to mount, public unrest is bound to erupt one day.
It is what it is. I'm not gonna, like I said, I don't think that this will last. I don't. Like I said, I think Americans are too addicted to consuming, and I think China loves our money. That's it. So I don't think this will disappear. But me personally, I hope that we can and we do cut off China. That we're not relying on China. That we're not, that we can detangle ourselves from China. That we can, not be addicted to consumerism, materialistic. I think it's never been a good thing. But yeah, you know what? I don't even remember the earthquake, of 2018. I don't even remember that. That's crazy. That's crazy. But yeah, I think that's it for tonight. Like I said, it was a short stream. There was just this topic that I wanted to talk about. So it is what it is. I thought it was, me personally, it's an interesting topic for me. I mean, it's understandable. I've been to Anchorage a few times, only the airport. So, but it's every time I went, it's a whole lot of snow. But I think it's cool that Alaska is our colder Hawaii like state. Okay, so it is all good. I mean, I think it's interesting. But yeah, please, if you guys really want to listen to more of my views on this whole China shit, I have a video that's pretty popular on my second channel. Okay, on my second channel. So if you guys want, please check it out. It's getting pretty popular for me. About 2.5 view, 2,000 views. That's decent for me. So yeah, I googled it. I had to Google it. That's crazy. A 7.1. was that's a pretty crazy magnitude. But I'm glad that, that Alaska, survived through that. So yeah, but guys, like I said, short stream tonight, a little bit different. Live in the big city. Yeah. That's good. I'm glad that the bigger cities, shit like that might not happen. So that's good. But yeah, why Apocalypse was here. Thank you guys for stopping by. I hope you guys have a good, good evening, good night, good rest of your night. But yeah, that's it for tonight. That's it for tonight's live. Glad you guys came by. I love you guys. You guys are amazing. You guys are my friends. Hope you had a good week. Hope you have a good rest of your weekend. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Why? My brother. Have a good night, my brother. All right? Love you. Later, guys.